Saturday mornings with Danny Baker on 5 Live.
Very good morning to everybody. Here we go again. There's Louise Pepper on the other side of the table.
Good morning, good morning.
And I just heard the advert there for the national conversation here in election week. And once again, we were, in word, thought and gesture, we were told no politics on the show. Don't remember, you can't talk about it. So there you go. Next week, the show will get back to normal.
Yes.
When we wrestle with these issues after the election. But
Desperate.
We're not allowed to talk about the election on the programme, which is why there's the gorilla in the room. Because normally that's our meat and drink, but they still have to tell us. Anyway, it'll all be over this time next week. So this week, anniversaries all over the place. On June the 1st, everyone said it's been 50 years since the release of Kenneth Williams' On Pleasure Bent album. And the whole country was... That was a national conversation.
Oh, absolutely.
That was a national conversation.
Bus stops everywhere.
Yeah, but this week it is something. On Tuesday, that's 40...
It's my parents' 47th wedding anniversary.
Is it? Then
40.
They got together 2 years. Well, 1970.
Yes.
Well, there's 2 years then. 6th of June. Two years to the day before Ziggy Stardust was released.
Well, I think it was
there
written
you
in
go.
the stars.
You know what came out the same day? Roxy Music's first album. Both those released on the first day. They both came out on the same day. They both... I know, you'd have thought there's weeks... No, Roxy used to support Bowie, remember? You could go to pubs... And Roxy Music opened for David Bowie. Both of them in their pomp.
It was like David Hepworth the other week saying that you could turn up to a Bowie concert on the day and buy tickets. The thought of that...
The Greyhound at Croydon. I saw him in the Greyhound at Croydon. In London here, in the Greyhound pub in Croydon. OK, before David Bowie, here's Roxy Music. Anyway, June the 6th. So on our Facebook page there, just hold up your copies of Ziggy Stardust for us, please. You can, or the Roxy Music album. Just hold them up, send them in. We'll have a little gallery there. We'll have a gallery of one or the other. Your copies. It doesn't matter if it's on cassette, 8-track, CD, or the actual album, reissues or otherwise. You just hold them up, take a photograph, send them in. Join the kids. Already getting behind that, I think. No, here's what I want to really. We'll start the show probably in a second, because you got that. You got the celebration of the good things there, Peps. Wait, I bet you got it on CD. That's what you're getting indoors, isn't it?
Yes.
No, that's okay. You don't have a look.
I haven't got any Bowie on vinyl. I've got some vinyl, but I've got some Beatles on vinyl. But I'm
60 in a few weeks. You know this.
No.
Right, I'm 60 in like 2 weeks and 4 days or something. 22nd of June. Make a note. Look for local press for street parties in your area. And there's only one thing in the world I want, and it's a record that pure stubbornness stopped me getting over the years. And that is, unbelievably for me, there's a record I don't have, and I mean that. And it's the very first Bowie album, which came out on June the 1st, same day as Sgt. Pepper. Sgt. Pepper, Bowie's first album on Deram, and Kenneth Williams on Pleasure Bent, all came out the same day. But it's given a lot of leeway for being any good.
Oh, okay, right. I was going to say, why are you?
No, it's the kind of it's the whole it's the sort of laughing gnome period.
I see.
It's got its merits and it's got its, but it was the eternal 30p record when shops used to have bins outside. Records 30p now. It was always there, and I just never felt the need to get it because no one bends at the knee to the Dane more than I do. But it's just not, and it was I'll get that another day. I'll get that another day, and then it went up to like £15 of what for Bowie's first album you can get anywhere. Yeah. Then it went at £25, and then it got to £50 a copy. Yeah. Do you know how much it would cost now? There's only one copy on Discogs. £2,250.
No.
£2,250.
Why?
And that's the only thing I want to know about.
Because so many of them were in 30p bins, they got chucked.
I don't know. But now, no, because Bowie then became David Bowie.
Well, yes, but
but now, the only copy I can see online is worth £2. If anyone's got an old copy of it out there, and you want to make an old boy, happy, then send it here.
Shouldn't have mentioned.
It's got to be an original on Deram, no rubbish, and £2,250. Why did I say that? Why didn't I ask people to send it to me and then reveal?
Those 30p copies. Just send it to me.
Honestly, anyway, but that's that. But listen, we can't keep talking about David Bowie all morning. He gets enough exposure. He's gone. You can hold up your copy of Ziggy. But here we go. This is the real anniversary today. 57 years ago. 57 years ago was the last time that Quaker Oats gave bone china away within a packet of Quaker Oats. They did this. They were the first to do it. You know, like cereals used to give you free gifts.
Toy, yeah.
Yeah, they did. Well, girls' comics were always good for that. A bracelet on the front.
Or a pretend lipstick and things like that.
Was there a pretend lipstick?
Yeah, they were absolutely pointless. They would twiddle up and there'd be plastic and you pretend to put them on, but nothing came off on your lips. They were absolutely pointless. But you could look like, oh, I'm putting
That's a sweet thing, you see. I used to look at the girls' comics, your Bunty and that. And
Twinkle, that's why I'm on
Twinkle,
voice.
with the dress cut out on the back in paper with a little flash.
For your dolly,
yes.
That you made the dolly out of the cereal packet.
Is that right?
Well, no, you get the cardboard.
Oh, I
it was
see.
the only cardboard you had in the house, really, wasn't it? The cereal packet.
So and those bracelets were made of sweets. They were
yes,
good.
they were lovely.
Absolutely
Always in
concrete,
a party bag.
like concrete. But anyway, Quaker Oats started the racket in 1891. They gave away bone china within it.
In the packet, not save up tokens.
No, in the packet. You go into a Quaker Oat, bring it out, and it would be bone china. A plate, a bowl, inside.
This is when people were more careful about how they stacked shelves as well.
There you go. And they didn't
not
stop.
moving around on pallets.
And they didn't stop that till 1960. You could buy your Quaker Oats, go in there, and there would be a piece of bone china. And it would not be full size. And a sausage sandwich going behind it for some reason. It would not be full size, but this oatmeal china is now extraordinary, more than your David Bowie's first album, extraordinary collectible. But that finished 47 years ago today. We'll start the show in a second. I'll go back and put that music on. Here we go. So we've got plenty to be doing. The Bowie albums for a start. So Jungle Juice. Do you remember a drink called Jungle Juice?
No.
Oh, I don't know if I do or not. I read about Jungle Juice in a different context, and I thought, that's a drink. That's like a flat cola, I remember it.
Oh, someone's bound to know, but no.
Anyway, that's something else. What are we doing this morning, Pep?
Number 1, relatives who didn't like you.
I don't know where this guy. I just thought, I bet there's something. My aunt didn't like me. They didn't like me. Something like that. I don't think I've got one of those, but there may be something in this. If your nan didn't like you, that's something.
The least favoured grandchild.
Yeah, exactly. We don't hear about relatives who just didn't like her.
Number 2, excuses involving famous people.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry I'm late. David Bowie needed to something. But anytime you've heard an excuse or given an excuse that had someone of note in it.
Number 3, smashing things up for fun.
Yeah. Ever done that?
No, I had an ex whose job when he sat a job when he was 18 or 19.
Yeah.
Was at a wrecker's yard with a big sort of, not a hammer. What would you call it?
Hammer.
What are the bigger ones? Can't remember.
Sledgehammer.
Yeah, but just sort of sledgehammering some of the vehicles that wouldn't go through the crusher or whatever, or bashing them up.
Beautiful.
What a great job for a teenage boy. Get all your
Absolutely.
aggression and all of that out.
They used to be very popular on television up until about 50 years ago. Arthur Strong will remember this when he comes in. On It's a Knockout and things, but not only just the game shows generally. They would destroy pianos and put them through letterboxes.
Oh, no, that feels wrong.
No, they have a letterbox rather like...
Burning books.
It seems like that, but they would have... We'll start the show properly in a minute. If you've never heard the show before, that we're usually political, but we're not allowed to talk about it this week. They'd have a front door... on its own, like Monkey's famous people front door, standing on its own, and to the side of it would be an upright piano. And then you'd be given, 2 teams would be given a sledgehammer. They'd have a piano each, and it was the first one who could destroy the piano and put it through the letterbox of the thing until all was gone, and then you put your hands in here, say, done it. It was really popular. I know, doesn't it sound good?
That's brilliant.
I tried it on TF5, but we couldn't. Nobody upright pianos by then were going like David Bowie's first album.
Well, my granddad did. Well, I think we've talked about this before. My granddad had no sentimentality about anything, and my mum came home from school once and said, "Where's the piano?" And my granddad had chopped it up for firewood. At the back.
Piano. That more than the coal industry were the backbone. They kept Britain moving, working, and warm for years and years. But they just for fun. They used to smash them up on television. Anyway, the subject is anything you've smashed up for fun.
Number 4, where you were born is surprising.
Yeah, 4,000 people in this country are born every year in vehicles, and that includes ambulances. But actually born.
Yes, my cousin gave birth to her, or second cousin gave birth to her daughter in the car.
Well, that's
didn't make it as far as the hospital.
I was born at home.
Which is actually quite a rare thing now, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And, Sister Walkden delivered me in Deptford. What else have we got?
Number 5, expressions you've only heard once.
Yeah. There was a reason for this, and I can't remember it now.
Count Arthur Strong, probably.
Oh, yeah.
But
there are, sometimes people use an expression, that's odd. No one else seems to use that.
Number 6, picking up the wrong bag.
Yeah, that's a given. Ever done that.
Number 7, tales about second dates.
Yeah, now, this, I don't know what we're going to get on this. I don't know why I went there. In my mania last night, I just thought, well, first date you hear about, is there any stories? Well, it seems to be going very well. And then you go on a second date and you think, oh, OK, now...
I've been on plenty.
Out pops the cloven hoof and you think, oh... There won't be a third. The first was good, but something like the second date, that's a telling one. Everyone tries too hard.
I'll dredge up through my memories. I'm sure I've got many.
What else we got there?
Number 8, being wrongly blamed.
Yeah. There was a... We don't know, in the flats I grew up, there were what now called butler sinks in them. Beautiful. Worth a lot of money.
And now worth a lot of money again.
And a big chip appeared in it once, and I don't mean a chip, I mean an abrasion, a dig out of it. And I was blaming our family, because I used to get in through the kitchen window because I didn't have a key. And our kitchen window was always left open, and so I'd get in through that, stand on the draining board and let myself in. So when this appeared, see what you've done, I told you, and everyone was going, I said, I didn't do that. I didn't do that. I felt like the fugitive, the one-armed man.
I think my sense of injustice came from sitting in school assembly aged 8, and the headmaster, Mr. O'Brien, told me off, singled me out, and I was a very obedient child.
Yeah.
For playing what we used to call Space Invaders on the ceiling, where you got the sun on your watch.
Oh, yeah, that's
chase each other around. I didn't even have a watch. I was so furious.
Your natural exuberance was fueling.
So furious. I marched to the headmaster's office after assembly. I don't have a watch.
Did you?
Aged 8.
Well,
about it, isn't it?
Getting wrongly blamed, you can hear perhaps is catharsis.
Still livid. 9. How your parents guessed you'd been drinking.
Now, easy with this, but if there's any novel way you think might entertain the kids out there, then that's how the parents found out. You've had a little drink, haven't you? Yeah.
And number 10, your wedding dress stories, please.
Yes, I like these. I like anything you've got on those. So there's plenty to be getting on with there. The show's only got about 3 minutes left. Here's our friend Louise, by the way. Hey, Louise.
Good morning.
Hey, Louise, how you doing? Now, I can just see the word stag next to your name here. Tell us why that might be.
Oh, I was listening last week, and you were just saying that there wasn't any stories with stags in after you got one. You'd never heard a story with a stag in. It couldn't happen.
Well, what had happened, Louise? Because it wasn't somebody in Basingstoke, was it?
Yes.
Said they were
jumped into a canal.
They had to jump into a canal because a stag ran at them, and I just said, they didn't seem very amazed that a stag ran at them in Basingstoke. So yes, I did. I asked your stag story, please. What do you have for us?
It was a bit late. So years and years ago, I was at uni in Nottingham, and there's a lovely park next to the university. So my little sister came to visit, about 15. So I took a gorgeous, lovely day, sitting by this huge lake. Hadn't told her that there's a big herd of deer in this big park. Didn't think it was important. They just wander. So we just went and we're sitting, chatting, and she's waving this apple round, talking, and a huge, big 12-point stag leaned over her shoulder and took her apple.
As soon as you said waving her apple around, I thought, well, you're asking for it here, even if...
Well, exactly. Of course, she jumped into the lake, because that was the nearest thing to her. And the stag, because that's where they used to go to cool down, followed her in.
Did it?
So there she stood in the lake, flapping her hands as if she was trying to get a wasp to go away, going shoo, shoo to the stag that just sort of stood looking at her chewing.
I don't find stags fearsome. Traditionally you jump in lakes to get away from swarms of bees that come at you in a column. And sometimes form a question mark if they're... But a stag, I think that would be quite soothing to feed a stag an apple. In zoos, kids would queue up to do that.
They would. It's the unexpected appearance of 12 points over your shoulder.
There is that. And Louise, how did she resolve this situation? Is she still there?
She got out, because I couldn't help her, because I was too busy laughing at her flapping her hands as if the stag was going to go, I said, OK, then I'll go away then. It stood cooling down, looking at her, chewing, and she was hysterical, and I was laying on the side of the lake laughing.
A bag of apples. I'd have stood there all day feeding a stag with it.
Yeah.
I mean, we know stray dogs follow kids home, but a stag indoors, that's a beautiful... Thank you, Louise. I appreciate it more than you know. There you go. There's a good stag story.
Cut a hole in the wall, get him to stand there with his...
Next to that moose you were on the previous week. I have a troop of ants I look after. Now, I know people think you're being willfully, but there's a... You know when usually at the sort of base of a wall, and you think, there's a little line of the guys, and they all bump heads as they go past each other. I can watch that for hours. And there's one in the back of our garden, and sometimes when I'm deep in thought, I'll go and watch the ants for a bit. And occasionally I'll take them a crumb of something, because I like the fact they see it, and then they'll pass it on, and then you go back and they're all over it, and then it's gone. But I read in the week that ants are frightened of talcum powder. Now... Oh. So I put that to the test, and it's true. I blocked their path with a little...
He stopped bringing us treats. And
Wendy said, where are you going with that? I said, up the garden. I'm just going to try something. But I put it... And they won't cross it. Something about talcum powder that ants won't...
Is that all ant powder is, though? It's just talc.
It might be.
We've all been paying over the odds for talc.
You know talcum powder's mined, don't you? I'm not... You know it's...
I don't know whether to believe you.
Honestly, there are talcum powder mines in Romania. You see these fellas in Tennessee and Russia coming up from the bowels of the earth covered, and they've been slogging themselves. Imagine these ones, they come up smelling wonderful. Talcum powder is mined.
The largest talc mine at Tremoun, near Luzenac in southern France, produces 400,000 tonnes per year.
Thank you.
Wow!
This show wouldn't be what it is if the stuff we said wasn't true. The fact it is. There you go.
Pictures of big white mines.
There you go.
Amazing.
Here's our friend Mark. Mark? Morning, Mark. Did you know talcum powder was mined?
No, I did, the stone talcum,
Yeah. The idea that these fellas go down there in those lifts and you've got the poor people who mine diamonds all day, and that's something. And you've got the coal miners.
It comes out in those white bottles.
I just think you come up and you smell great. You go home, you wouldn't shower. You just say, just shake yourself off and...
No chafing ever?
No chafing.
You can easily slip into all of your clothing.
The idea that there's talcum powder mines is one of my favourite pieces of information. Mark, why are you tugging our coat this morning?
I'm ringing up to say about the phrases you've only ever heard once.
Just one time, yeah? What would it be?
Well, I work in enforcement in local authority. I particularly deal with noise problems, so when one person accuses somebody else of being too noisy, we investigate that. Mm-hmm. And we had a really old chap who was making a complaint. He was a serial complainant. And he, after the investigation, we decided that he had no complaint. It was just the normal use of the property. Right. And he told me that I was as useful as a cat.
As useful as a cat? He's got that all wrong.
Yeah, that was a negative statement. I was quite pleased with it. I mean, I thought it was a compliment.
But did you not want to point out... I think you might want to back up and rewrite that, and need some polishing that phrase. As useful as a not even a chocolate cat, because that's useful. I can see where it's going.
I can see useful as a slug. Or...
Yeah, no. The first 3/5 of that, but even 4/5 of that sentence all work. But you've got to choose wisely what it is. And he stood by it. He didn't sort of correct himself.
Yeah, and it wasn't a verbal insult, it was a written one. So it was something he'd had the time to think about.
You're as useful as a cat.
Yeah, having been brought up in Hull, I mean, I was brought up in Hull, which is a shipping town.
Yeah.
I would imagine cats were pretty useful ones.
You don't have to qualify that. Of course cats do that. I think I've told this before, of course I have. When I went to pick up our dog, I only told it the other week, I think, and the kennels had been, years ago, they'd been treating him rough. And I stormed out of there, Mark, saying, this is disgraceful. You're going to be hearing from me in very, very due course. That's the only time they're ever going to hear that. But even then I knew that was wrong. Thank you, Mark. About as useful as a cat. What have you got over there, Peps?
Well, funny enough, Chris on Twitter said I once heard someone say, that'll put the apple cart amongst the pigeons.
But that's a malapropism, which is exactly what I wanted to say there. Arthur Strong has got those, but it's just like that. I've never heard that expression. Never heard it since. Give us something from over there.
Now, this is from Therese, who says you'll know her as TC on the M25.
Okay, yeah.
She says you might like to see this from an old copy of a Village magazine. It's a very old copy. It's the Balsham Review from November 2000. It's the sort of trivia you might appreciate. I think someone has made this up.
What have we got there?
How about you read How to Measure a Tree?
How to measure a tree. Okay, so here we go. Here we go. How to measure a tree. How to measure a tree without climbing it. Choose your tree and walk in a straight line. When you think you are far enough away, turn your back on the tree, bend over, keeping your legs straight, clasp your ankles and look between your legs. When you see the whole of the tree, straighten up and measure the distance from you to there. This will give you the height of the tree. Well, if you're going to measure how far you are from it, why don't you just measure the... Oh, I see, you can't...
Well, you can't climb the tree.
Well, you could if you had a plumb line. No, that would help. Anyway, but so you walk away from the tree, you look back through your legs...
Clasping your ankles.
So you can see the top of the tree and then see how far you are from the tree, and that will tell you. That's wonderful. That's like knowing if you put your chin in the crack of your elbow, the top of your wrist will come to where the top of your head is. That measurement is exactly the same size as your head.
I was always
told... From your wrist to your elbow inside.
I was told your wrist to your elbow is your foot length as well. Which actually isn't far.
Yes, it is.
There you go.
It is. It's almost like the human body wasn't just slung together. There are plenty of things you might want to bring in for this morning, but the first half of the show tends to go its own way. What you got over there, Pet?
Gareth in Manchester, smashing things up for fun.
Mm-hmm.
I am ashamed to say, used my sister's vinyl collection to play...
Oh, no, man, no, don't tell me this. Go on.
To play Frisbee with my mates in the local pub car park.
Oh.
It's the late 80s. It seemed jolly good fun as they shattered onto the tarmac. She's never quite forgiven me, needless to say.
Well,
I bet there was Bowie.
People who came and saw the tour and know that this is where I've got a... My dad used to get records out of the dock, to take records home that they were exporting. Brought him a box of a group called the Human Beast. And I used to take them over East Lane and Petticoat Lane in London and sell them when I was 11. That's what I used to do, sell the records my dad brought home.
Oh, yeah.
Usually it was good, but he brought him a box of this thing called the Human Beast once. This is absolutely true, and I took it over there, and they took it, but a few weeks later they gave them all back to us. It was a terrible record. The Human Beast, Volume 1, on Decca. And nobody wanted it, and I kept them under the bed, and we couldn't get rid of them. And so we took them over the dump where we lived, me and my mates, and we got our air rifles, and used the Human Beast for target practice. Who could get nearest the hole in the middle?
Oh,
it was a wonderful day. And we used to throw them in the air and try and hit it. That was the Human Beast Volume 1 on Decca, 1970. Go on to a site called Discogs. Have a look how much a copy of Human Beast is currently on there for. I'll tell you how much it's on there for. £1,250. It's a lost underground classic. There are not many copies available.
Funny that.
Yeah, I know. And that's in Russia, rather. Here's Kit. Hey, Kit.
Hello.
Good morning, Kit. Thank you very much for being there. Kit, this is a story of a second date. What can you tell us?
Well, I went out on a successful first date. Funnily enough, with a lady I'm actually seeing again now.
Oh.
So it's all, over time it's all gone quite well. First date, we went out, romantic dinner out at a bar, and, we talked for hours. Second date, we decided to go out to the cinema. And it was all going well for 10 minutes until I realised I think I might have been out at a gig. I couldn't name what the gig was the night before, but basically I fell asleep.
Did you?
And not only did I fall asleep, I snored, and I apparently also dribbled.
Oh. And yet, you're still. This relationship continues.
Well, it did continue for 4 years. Yes, yeah. So, but the slight irony of this story is that the film that I was watching was the Al Pacino film Insomnia.
So you fell asleep on the second date. You're sitting there, and she's thinking, well, I've got, he's a nice fellow. I'm waiting for him to show any faults. We'll see how it goes tonight. And you're sitting there, and she's thinking, oh, please let this one work. And suddenly she just hears, and dribble.
That's the
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. No, do you want to have a tissue? Revolting. Anyway, we'll be right back.
Saturday mornings with Danny Baker on 5 Live. Home of Danny Baker's sausage sandwich game. Will it be red sauce, brown sauce, or no sauce at all?
Very good morning to everybody. We spend the first half of an hour of the show just yakking about this and that. I can't even remember what it was. Perhaps, no, I generally can't, apart from the measuring the tree thing. And then we give a list of 10 subjects we want people to call in for. All of them will yield me. And then we're into the sausage sandwich game. And then we have a guest, and then we come back about 20 to 11 and try and fit everything into that. The show is actually only 20 minutes long. But I
only just realised.
If you want, I know. I just thought, well, I want to knock myself out every week with those. But the main thing is the show is built around one thing and one thing only, and we know what that is. And it is the sausage sandwich game. And I appreciate everybody who just joins us for this little bit. And Bianca Walkden is our subject this week. Taekwondo's own Bianca Walkden. Good morning, Bianca.
Hello.
I can't imagine you hang on every word of this sausage sandwich game every week. You've never heard it before, have you?
No, I haven't. It's the first time I've heard of it.
Here's the thing. It's not intimidating. Sometimes you think, I can't hang on to this. Nobody can. It used to be about 2 or 3 minutes, and then it just kind of... Yeah. So don't... any questions, just think, why has he asked me that? There's no reason for it. We're just fooling around in a radio studio. So you won bronze in Rio, gold, World Championships 2015, etc., etc. And people call you Queen...
All right.
People call you Queen Bee, don't they?
Yeah, they do, yeah. I got a little nickname randomly off one of the staff who work in our GB Taekwondo Centre, and it's just stuck ever since.
I genuinely envy people who have nicknames. I'd like a nickname, one that people would say in my earshot. I'm sure I've got several. But you never had one, Peps?
No, not at all. Peps, that's about it.
That's about it. No, I came up with that, I think. But anyway, good morning, Bianca. So you've got 4 screws in your body, is that right?
Yeah, I've got 4 screws, yeah.
Where are they? Where are they?
I've got 2 in my left leg and 2 in my right leg.
And they're okay? But when you go through
they're all right. They're still in there. I don't beep up when I go into the airport or nothing like that, so I'm doing all right.
They don't, because the myth is that they do, but they don't, huh?
No, they actually don't now. I wanted them to, but they don't now. They're like plasticky type screws, so...
And something else I know about you, you'd like to do I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here in the Jungle.
Oh, yeah, I'd love to do it one day, yeah.
I can fix that
You
for
did all right in it, didn't you?
I've been doing this 40-odd years, this whatever it is I do, and amongst the top 3 jobs I've ever had it is like you see it on television, and it's not. Yeah. It is. I can put a word in. I know all the team. I really do.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've got
Put me in there, get me a word in. I want to go in.
Seriously, I do. I'm seeing them Wednesday about something else. That's a booking. Yeah. Any newspapers listening, you've got one down already. We know now. Bianca Walkden's in there.
Yeah. There you go. I'm in.
And honestly, it is. You'd have a terrific time. It is a great time. I'll see what I can do about that.
Thank you.
In Taekwondo itself. What is the most common thing that infringement, like in offside or handball in football? In Taekwondo, what mustn't you do that people tend to do?
What you mustn't do, or what you should do?
What the easiest thing to do that you mustn't do?
You shouldn't punch someone in the face. You're not allowed to punch anyone in the face.
That's true in real life, walking down the street. It's not particular Taekwondo. Do people try that then, and punch you in the face?
Well, you just get a bit excited and you want to try and kill them and knock them out, and you just go in for it. And you, instead of going for the body, because you're allowed to punch to the body, you just slip and hit them in the face by mistake.
Wow! Well, and you've both been guilty of that and been a victim of that, I take it.
Yeah, I'll put my hands up. Yeah, I've slipped a bit too high and hit them in the face a few times. I've been hit in the face as well, so that's not.
But it's rough. I mean, it sounds like that's a line in the sand, but it sounds pretty rough as well, yeah?
Yeah, Taekwondo is quite rough. It's a full contact sport.
Yeah.
So, the aim of the game is to knock your opponent out, really. Because if you knock them out, you win, and you go through the next round.
But if you can't punch someone, how do you knock them out?
You kick them in the face.
Well, see, that's what I was getting at. You can kick them in the face, But you can't...
Punching's all wrong.
That just seems... and how many times have you been spark out yourself? How many times you said good night?
I actually have never been
Good for you.
sparred. Thanks, but touch wood if I don't in my next competition or nothing like that.
I've never... Have you ever been knocked out in real life? You have?
Yeah, I was knocked out in training. I've been knocked out in training like a few times. I actually got knocked out by my boyfriend once in training.
Wow!
That doesn't sound the best, but yeah.
Wow,
Had a row the night before.
I was going to say
All of it.
But see, you've been knocked out?
No, never.
Neither. I don't know what it's like.
That's a good feeling.
Is it?
Yeah.
You know what? I think so. I think. I mean, I don't know, and I don't want to experience it. But I just think, while you're gone, is it like sleep?
When you're gone, it's just like you're a bit dizzy and a little bit sleepy, and then you just wake up and it's just gone. You're just back
Little
home.
birds.
Muhammad Ali said, he said the little birds thing is quite true, he said, but he felt like alligators were playing trombones in his ears. That's what he said. I would like
And then you
that.
wake up and your face is like all bruised and like you got a massive headache.
And you've got a wavy line instead of a
Knocking
mouth.
someone out the other way. It's probably best knocking someone out, not getting knocked out.
Probably, but even so, you should experience it at least once. So, Bianca, wait right there. We'll come back and we'll do this game with you. Here's our friend
Okay.
Paul. Paul.
Good morning, Danny. How are you?
Good to go, Paul. How many times have you been knocked out, Paul?
I'm
Coming
quite
out
happy
cold.
to say I haven't been knocked out.
Me neither.
I'm quite happy to say that way.
No, but
I'm not as eager as you on that.
I'm not eager, but, there's a few things in this life that I sometimes think, well, you go through this veil of tears for 70-odd summers. Surely you should experience everything. So it's never happened to you, Paul?
Never happened to me. No, I always thought that about breaking a bone. Wonder what that felt like. Did it, quite happy to do it once, never do it again.
That's something. I can see that. But being knocked out, I think, is an altered state. And I don't know. So who are you playing for, Paul?
I'm playing for Premier League, Brighton and Hove Albion.
Yes, you are playing for Premier League, Brighton and Hove Albion. Now, you were there when they went up, or do you go to the ground?
Yeah, regular at the ground, and was there against Wigan when we sealed promotion, so yeah, special day.
Well, I think you just jumped out of the league because you didn't want to play us next year. But
I think there is a bit of that as well.
You got Palace, I suppose. So stay there, Paul. Here's our friend Nick. Nick, when was the last time you were out cold?
Never, I'm afraid,
Never
Danny.
had this. Well, I know we're going to have to do a poll of the audience to see if this is normal or not, because nobody seems to have ever been knocked out. Ever come close to it, Nick?
Nope, not so far.
No. I've passed out, which is slightly different.
No,
I've passed
I haven't
out.
done that either.
Yeah, I've passed out. Yeah, but not to drink. Actually, I don't think I've ever passed out. I don't know why I said that.
Fainted? Is that saying?
No, I've never fainted. No, you fainted?
No.
You ever fainted, Nick?
No.
Bianca, you ever fainted?
No, just been knocked out.
No. Paul, you ever fainted?
I haven't fainted, no.
So how about swooned? It's an interesting distinction, I know, but anyway. So, Nick, who are you playing for?
I'm playing for Brighton's South Coast rivals, Southampton.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
that's good.
Saints
That's
again.
a little tiny edge in there, but I'm looking at the time. We're nearly done. I'm so sorry, Bianca, but get on with this now. Now, what's going to happen, Bianca? I'm going to ask questions that only you could possibly know the answer to. There's no right or wrong. You know, that's it. I'm telling you. Because you're the subject, so you listen, and by trying to anticipate your answers, Paul for Brighton and Hove Albion, and barely conscious Nick, who's playing for Southampton, will try and anticipate your answer and score a goal for their team.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Here we go. The first question is about karaoke. It's about karaoke. I collect copies of Quando. I don't know if you know this. If I see a copy of Quando, and if ever in a karaoke bar, I sing Quando. This sort of thing. Here we go. So listen, turn this up a bit, Pete. Let's have a little bit. We'll be right back. Hang on.
Tell me when will you be mine?
This is me.
Tell me quando. We will share our love divine. Oh, my love, please tell me when.
There'll be more of that in the second half of the show. Now, but Bianca, Paul, the last time Bianca sang karaoke, right? We actually got up and did karaoke, Paul. It was in the last 3 months. It would have been in the last 3 months. It would have been in the last year, or it's been longer than that. She may never have done it. What do you think, Paul? The last time Bianca Walkden did a karaoke, it was in the last 3 months. It was in the last year. It's been longer than that. What would you say, Paul?
I am going to go for within the last 3 months.
within the last 3 months, is at a party, and somebody said, yeah, why not? I'll get up and do that. Nick, you're left with, it's been in the last year, or it's been longer than that, and this is for Southampton.
I think she sounds quite lively, so I would have gone 3 months, but so I'm going to have to go within the last year.
Nick, I love it when people bring any science at all. How about you, Nick? When was the last time you got up and gave it your best?
I've never done that either.
You've never done that? No, that's all. This is all research. We are nothing if not like... anyway, we'll come back to Paul and ask him in a minute. Bianca, last time you actually were moved to stand up and do a bit of karaoke, only one song or whatever it was in the last 3 months, actually. Could have been last night, we don't know that. It was in the last year, or it's been longer than that. The answer, please, Bianca Walkden.
It's longer than that.
It's it.
Oh.
Would that be you've never done it, or you have done it? But
No, I've done it. It's just longer than a year.
What was your choice of song when you actually did it?
It was Whitney Houston. I Want to Dance with Somebody.
Was it?
Oh, good tune.
Oh, tremendous one.
Yeah.
Complete with the rah-rah skirt, giving it plenty. What's that done to the score then?
It's 0-0. Brighton and Hove Albion 0, Southampton 0.
Okay, anyone who ever wants to ring up the show, and we've got several here we can always do. Men trying to do Wuthering Heights is our favourite, of course. All right, so it's... what did you say the score was?
0-0.
Okay. But last week when we were doing this, it's all right, Bianca, it goes like this all the time. Last week during this spot, we did a live on-air jingle for the show, which sums up, Bianca, exactly what it's like. Pete, I'm just going to play this now. This is the jingle from last week's show.
Danny Baker, 9 o'clock on Saturdays. I heard it for a bit, then I switched it off.
Okay, that was from last week.
That was Mickey Adams.
No, yes, it was. Now here, now we've established that Bianca does enjoy the karaoke, and was quite regular at it, but she's in training at the moment. She can't.
I wasn't too bad, actually.
I'll bet. Because people like to say, oh, I'm terrible, but I like people, Bianca, who say, no, I'm actually quite good at it. In fact, I know...
I'm all right. I'm not good. I'm all right.
You go and buy one of those machines in the front room. You'll be practice. One thing you Taekwondo people don't understand, you have to practice a lot.
Yeah, practice makes perfect.
That'll do it. Now, I'm going to play... Bianca, you're 25, aren't you?
Yeah.
And then, you know, forgive me for saying so, but literally I've got children older than you, which is fine, and there it is. Now... what I'm going to do, and this is no inference on Bianca's musical taste, we know she's... In fact, who's a DJ in your circle of friends? Have you got someone who's a DJ?
My brother is a DJ.
How's he doing?
DJ.
Is he doing okay at it?
Yeah, he's doing well, He's doing really well.
You see, I stopped listening to records in about 1980. That's fine. That's as it should be. But I'm going to play. Bianca's 3 records from the 1970s. She won't know what they are, and that's fine. Or maybe she will. We don't know.
We'll see.
But we'll see. One of these records is by the group Focus. Now, I'm going to play them, and afterwards, she's going to say it was the first one, it was the second one, it was the third one, and that's what Paul. Don't say a word, Bianca, until I ask you.
Okay.
But one of these is the group Focus. And it's all right. It's all right being on the cutting edge with Whitney Houston, but you've got to have them back catalogue. So here we go. One of these records will be the 70s progressive band Focus, and Bianca afterwards is going to say which one she feels it is. Here's number 1. Here's number 2. Here's number 3. Number 1. Number 2. Number 3. Paul. Bianca Walkden has heard those 3 examples. Which one is she going to identify as Focus? Clip number 1, number 2. Oh, so it's Nick. You're absolutely right. Well done, Peps. Well done. That's the kind of thing that when we, with other people as referees, Lindsay used to sit there and just file her nails throughout this. So well done. You're on top of this. Nick, would she identify Focus as clip number 1, clip number 2, or clip number 3? What do you think she feels is focus out of those?
Well, I'm the same age as you, Danny, so that basically that music is very much from my era.
No,
so
no
it's
tips.
really easy.
Yeah, all right, but what do you think Bianca's going to say?
For a 25-year-old Liverpudlian, it's quite a tricky one, to be honest. I mean, I know it is.
Of course you do, but we mustn't. You're giving your opponent help here.
That she won't have a clue.
But it doesn't matter, does it? It doesn't matter. Now you see, you're giving too much information, Nick.
Well, I'm going to say number 1.
You say number 1. She'll say number 1. Paul, you are left with. She's going to say number 2 or number 3. And Bianca, by the way, please don't change your answer to favour one of these two.
Okay.
Paul, she's going to say it was number 2 or it was number 3. What do you think?
Well, I didn't recognise either of them, so I'm just going to have a wild guess at number 3.
You didn't know which one yourself?
I didn't know.
Oh, how old are you?
40.
Oh, I suppose so. Okay.
A little bit before my time.
Had you been? Yeah. And so is a little thing called the Bible, but I bet you've heard of that. Okay. Now, so here's clip number 1. Here's number 2. And here's number 3. Bianca Walkden, one of those is focus. Was it number 1, number 2, or number 3, in your opinion? Answer, please. Bianca Walkden.
I haven't got a clue.
Good, that's right, yeah.
But I thought I'd go for this one because I thought it sounded the oldest. So
What one?
I'm number 2.
You think number 2? That's the answer. I was given that, yes. What has that done to the score?
It's number 2 correct?
No.
Is it correct?
Who said it? Hang on.
No one said...
One second.
No one said
One
number
second.
2.
The question was... Let me go back. Hang on. The question was, what will she identify as the answer? She's in as number 2. What did you say, Paul? What did you say, Paul?
Number 3.
3. Who said that?
Paul said 3, Nick said 1.
All right. Nick, what did you say?
I said the correct answer, number 1.
That's the right one.
Danny Baker, 9 o'clock on Saturdays. I heard it for a bit, then I switched it off.
Okay, so what's happened?
It's still 0-0.
It is. Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you something now, kids. And Nick knew this all along. This is Focus. This track is actually called... Nick, what's this track called?
Julia.
No, it isn't. This is Hocus Pocus by Focus.
Number 1.
This number 1, Bianca. Do yourself a favour, get that DJ boyfriend of yours, rush out, buy himself a copy of Focus's album, play Hocus Pocus by Focus. Everyone! Still 0-0, is it? Oh, okay.
Not doing very well.
No, believe me, there is no well or unwell in this game. It just is. It just washes
Sorry,
over
guys.
you. It just no, honestly. They're doing wrong. You know the answers. You're the only one who knows the answers. And here we now come to the question that gave the game its name. I'm going to take a little drink. Pretty dry this morning. Okay. Where are we? Oh, yes, okay. So, I hand Bianca, like any sports person, she has to watch the... and you're training at the moment, aren't you, for the championships in Korea this month?
Yeah, I'm training for the World Championships. It's at the end of the month, so I can't wait.
When at the end of the month?
I fight on the 27th and 28th of June.
Okay. My birthday's on the 22nd. Knock yourself out, come over to the party. It's going to be something, yeah. I'm 60.
I'll win for you.
I'm 60 this year, Bianca. How about I'm 60? And I did the jungle, so yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Knocking on, aren't you?
Exactly. And believe me, that's why I know who Focus are. Well, okay, so...
Happy birthday.
Well, thank you. It's Thursday week. Look for street parties in your area in the local press.
Yeah, I will.
I hand Bianca a sausage sandwich. Right? Now, Paul for Brighton and Nick for Southampton. The game rests on this now. This is it. This is the penalty shootout. I hand Bianca a sausage sandwich. She looks, she goes, yeah, okay, no, I've not got to get absolutely into the regime for another couple of days. And she looks at it. Does she ask Paul for red sauce? Does she ask for brown sauce? Does she ask for no sauce at all? We've been skylarking and giggling up to now. Now it's serious. 0-0. And the big question, Paul, red sauce? Brown sauce? or no sauce at all? What do you think, Paul?
Okay, well, I'm hoping Bianca falls on the red side of Liverpool, and therefore I'm going for the only answer of this question, which is red sauce.
Okay, okay, we'll find out in a moment. It doesn't always follow that way. Nick, you're left with brown or no sauce at all.
Yeah, I'm gutted, Danny, because, basically based on my research as a scouser, it had to be red, didn't it?
Oh, you say that.
But this is the story of our season. We haven't scored for five games.
You're presuming defeat. You're presuming defeat.
Well, I can't see it, but I'm going to say no sauce at all.
For a moment there, I know I'm dizzy this week. Did you say no sauce at all?
I know. I really wanted red, but I've got no choice.
That doesn't mean you throw yourself off the cliff. If you say, we don't know what the answer is yet, but that's what you've done. Oh, red's gone, therefore you've walked off into the woods with your revolver.
Yeah,
why would you? Okay,
it's my ball. I'm taking it home.
Okay, yep. Okay. So, Bianca, I hand you a sausage sandwich, a beautiful one, crusty bread.
Yeah.
The butter's already seeped in. It's hot, and we smash it down with a fork, which is the way I like to do it. And then you open the condiment cupboard, if there is such a thing. Do you reach for the red sauce? Do you reach for the brown sauce? Or no sauce at all? The answer, and this is crucial, Bianca Walkden.
I reach for the red sauce.
Oh, it went to foam there. What's that done to the score, Peps?
Brighton and Hove Albion 1, Southampton 0.
Wow, you knew it. Nick was right.
Yeah.
He knew. He absolutely. He read the entrails and thought there's no point getting up today. Nick, bless you, but you're a researcher. I appreciate it more than you know. Paul, not only is this your season officially when you go up to the Premier League, but it looks like it's a red letter day all round, red sauce day all round. You get what everybody who plays a sausage sandwich game gets. Our very best wishes, Paul. Thank you very much indeed, Bianca. So you're off at the end of the month, yeah, to Korea.
Yeah, I'm going to Korea. I'm going to Muju.
Yeah, and are you red hot favourite?
Well, I'm going there to try and retain my title, so
good for you.
I must be one of the favourites, yeah.
And who have you got in your laser eye? Who is the one you think, okay, bring it on?
Everyone's
Really?
a threat, aren't they? So
Yes, they are.
Everyone's in the danger zone.
Do you know what? You'd fit right in here at the BBC, because down that pit, the paranoia, they all use their peripheral vision. Oh, yeah, even the lowliest foot soldier has the marshal's baton in his knapsack. Bianca, thank you very much indeed. I hope that wasn't too painful. All the best in your career, Queen Bee. Bravo. And now the show's own jingle.
Good morning, everybody. It's the Danny Baker Show, radiating out across the airwaves. Come the sunshine or the rain, come aboard the Danny train. We'll kick our slippers off and throw our cares away. What better thing to do than have a jolly jape or two? Don't touch that dial, there's nowhere else to go. Come and join a happy session, wave ta-ta to the recession on the Danny Baker Show. Take it away, Danny.
Always do, Wisby. Thank you very much indeed. On our Facebook page, we need photos of you with your copies of Ziggy Stardust. Hold them whatever format they're in, and we'll have a gallery of those. What you got over there, Peps, quickly?
A text from my mother. Don't you remember the picnic in Knoll Park with the Betsons when the stag trampled on and then ate the birthday cake of the family next to us?
Oh! We've got 10 subjects running this morning. You can find them online either on my Twitter or the show's Twitter and Facebook and all that. And yet, the subject of stags, the audience just say, that's fine, we'll make up our own entertainment. Thank you very much indeed. Steve Delaney, Count Arthur Strong joins us on the other side of this.
You're listening to a BBC 5 Live podcast. The Danny Baker Show.
If you like this, you might also like this.
Kermode and Mayo's film review.
If you don't know your app from your elbow, boom tish, here all week, tip your waitress.
To find out more about our range of podcasts, click, tap or swipe bbc.co.uk/5live.
This can't be right, can it? This doesn't look like I think a radio station looks like. Leans more towards how I think a bungalow might look like. You'd have thought at the very least that they've had a big radio mast in the garden.
Hello.
Hello.
All the newspapers are already in the recycling bin.
What?
You're not recycling?
No. I haven't used my bag for years. I came on the bus. What's it got to do with you, how I got here anyway? Oh, is it expenses? Travelling expenses, because I've just remembered it was a taxi, not a bus. I went somewhere on a bus another day. That will be why you're so confused.
Who are you?
You're talking about who am I? I've come to be on the show.
What show?
I don't know what it's called.
Where do you think you are?
I think I'm here, right in front of you. Hello, it's me.
Saturday mornings with Danny Baker on 5 Live.
Very good morning to everybody. Steve Delaney, otherwise known in some circles as Count Arthur Strong, joins us. Couldn't be more pleased. How are you when you listen to yourself, Steve? Do you want to run from the room, or do you think, oh, that's pretty good?
I don't want to run, but it's not a comfortable feeling, really.
It was?
Yeah, it's not a comfortable feeling, really.
No, it isn't. I can imagine so. I apologise for doing that to you.
Unless it's a good bit.
That's great. That could not be more apposite this morning. Now, in the background is one of your hit singles playing. We'll just turn this up for a second. Your hits. Bung the headphones on.
Okay.
And the world's all right with me. Just one look at you.
How come you made a record?
And I know it's gonna
That seemed a natural thing to do. I mean, I've always fancied doing a duet with Anita Harris. And, I mean, for a long time before I ever thought it might become a reality.
Really?
Yeah.
And why Anita Harris? How did what was the deal with that?
She must have been a touchstone from your youth as well.
Did you know she used to feature in the show. She's actually in the series we did as well. Let's go over to the proper music in the background. It could be distracting in the background.
Proper music? Hang on a second. I must challenge you on that. I put my heart and soul into that.
All I'm saying, it's clashing with our conversation, the way the audience saying, belt up you two, we want to hear the extraordinary version of Lovely Day. No, Anita Harris was in 1967 at the ABC Great Yarmouth, picked someone from the audience to sing Anniversary Waltz. Who do you think she picked? Down the front row. And I said, Danny. She went, well, Dennis. And I'm not joking, that's Dennis. Absolutely true, yes. So she was a crush of mine. You made Something Stupid was the A-side with her.
Yeah.
And you know, it did okay.
Did okay. Didn't chart, did it, really?
It didn't chart, but seriously, it was a long-time ambition to talk to Anita Harris, yeah?
Oh, yeah. She's someone ever since I started doing Arthur, she was someone I used as I mean, I used a series of names of so-called celebrities.
Yeah.
Anita was the exception. I used to mention people like Pete Murray and Frank Windsor as people that Arthur had worked with.
Yeah.
Or he'd read a news headline that they'd featured in and a fortnight later thought he'd worked with them.
That's the thing. See, the thing is with Count Arthur Strong, I mean, there are various Count Arthur Strongs. There's the live show, the TV show, the radio show. And I noticed they all have their flag wavers. Oh, I love the live show. I love the TV show. Oh, I like the radio show. Because he is quite different in all three performances. How protective are you of him? When certainly in if other people are writing, do you say, no, he wouldn't do that?
Yes. Yeah, I do. But I've not really worked with people where there's ever been an argument about it. You know, it's...
No, but if somebody suggested a film, Count Arthur in Space, you'd say, no, we're not going to.
I wouldn't say no to it.
Your eyebrows.
I'd say so. If there's anybody out there that wants to do a film in space, I'd love to go to space.
It's like Molly Sugden made that series, Come Back, Mrs. Noah. I don't know if people remember.
I don't remember that.
Molly Sugden made a series in about 1980 called Come Back, Mrs. Noah, and it was her going into space. She was the cleaning woman on the spaceship when it took off. It lasted I know. Now it's not such a good idea, is it?
I don't know. I could be the maintenance man, the DIY man or something.
Do you do what? We'll come to the wider career in a second. Do you have other characters? And I don't mean that in terms of you couldn't do it, but do you have anyone you're thinking, I'd like to get that one away now?
No, not anymore. I mean, when I started out, people used to say, oh, you've got to do a few other characters as well, because a lot of people were doing lots of characters at that time.
Yeah.
So I did mess around for a little bit with a character called Alfie Parrott, who was an Elvis Presley fanatic and looked a little bit like him. Or he thought he looked a bit like him. And another character called little Tommy Bugger. I don't know whether I can say that.
No, you can't say that.
Okay.
We'll apologise for it. But it's Booger. It means
Bugger,
you pick
yeah.
your nose. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So they fell away because suddenly after.
Well, they did, yeah. I mean, it seemed. If when I was doing a live show, if I started as I sometimes did with those two, I then had to get changed into Arthur halfway through the show rather than being him for the whole evening, and it didn't feel right. And it was very obvious that Arthur was the main character anyway.
When we see like in films, also in an A film, when Chaplin finds the hat and the cane, and suddenly there's the angels playing. Did you find Arthur straight away? Are there photos of him rather like you can see Dame Edna? There's photos of Dame Edna. You think that doesn't look like it. The early Arthur, was he pretty physically looking much like he does now?
He was. He was a bit more mannered, and it was a bit more like a young bloke pretending to be an old bloke. Now I'm an oldish bloke.
So how long has it been?
Well, I first messed around with the notion of Arthur when I was doing an exercise when I was at drama college training to be an actor. But it was only for a kind of an end-of-term skit, Yeah. But it went down very well, so I remembered it and kind of filed it away without really being aware of it. And then that was in 1982, I think.
Yeah.
And I started doing Arthur in 1997, so in the 15 years I was largely working as a carpenter, trying to seek work as an actor.
Because Arthur does talk about his parts, the Be All Casualty and, Juliet Bravo. You did all those?
I did, yes.
You did?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of me in Arthur and a lot of real people. People often ask me how I devised him. I don't really think I devised him. It's just in that 15-year period when I did nothing with him, performance-wise, he was at the back of my mind all the time, really. So when in 97, when I first went to the Edinburgh Festival and did some comedy on the circuit, he kind of popped out, ready-formed, really. As
I say, you've done... The radio is what... how I came to him. Most people came to him, I think. And what have you done, 9 series now?
Well, they've called it 8 series, but I think it's 7 with about half a dozen specials,
Oh, OK, yeah.
So it's just short of 50 shows, really, just coming up to 50 shows.
And you're going to do more?
I think there'll be at least a couple of Christmas specials this year.
See, the people the absolute intricate references all the way through it, apart from what the character does, they are... You take no... account of whether people will remember those people or not. I mean, in the stage show, I noticed when you're trying to think of whatever the actual real thing you're trying to think of is, but you go through different sisters, and you mention both the K sisters, which I'm sure nobody remembers, and Swing Out Sister, in trying to get that. And the breadth of that. Do you ever just think, well, I remember them, I just trust people to...
Yeah. I've always looked upon it as I do my thing, and if people get it, great. If they don't, then it's fine as well, really.
Yeah.
I don't want it to appeal to everyone.
Yeah.
Anyone, I nearly said.
Well, you work on Radio 4, so come to 5, and that's it, you get your wish. But the affection for comedians, because it could be just a rather brutal sort of, look at an old-fashioned way of entertaining, but you can just tell the a lot of people say Harry Worth, a lot of people say there's a lot of that in it, but you plainly love that era of entertaining.
Yeah, I mean, it's what when I was a kid through the 60s, the television was never off in our house. As soon as we got a television, it went on. All the time there was a programme on. And sometimes it was only about 4 or 5 hours a day you could get television for in the early 60s and what have you. And it went off at night with a black dot after the epilogue and all that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. And I remember all those comedians. I wasn't old enough to go to see Variety. Proper,
Did you never? You went panto though, didn't you?
No, I did. My next door neighbour, and there's a bit of Arthur. I based a little bit of Arthur on him, really, without really knowing about it. But he was a chief electrician at the Grand Theatre in Leeds, and he was really a very, very eccentric bloke. He was, if anybody worked with him, they never forgot him. And so his mum used to take me down to the pantomime sometimes. So I saw Lonnie Donegan in pantomime.
Did you?
Yarna at Leeds Grand.
Yarna?
Yeah. And that was my first taste of pantomime.
Yeah.
I think my last taste of pantomime.
No, Lonnie Donegan and Yarna, that's a rarefied... now, let me do something here. I want to play, and it's quite a long clip, but anyone who's not, up to speed with it after Strong, this is if I might presume, quintessential, and it's Arthur telling the story of the Nativity. And this, if you can bear it, you can take your headphones out and on here, but I just think this is one of the funniest things I've ever heard on a radio show.
Oh, good.
But it makes a change for this programme. But here we go. Here's Count Arthur trying to explain what the Nativity is to an audience. Here we go.
'Twas the night before Christmas, and all the children were in bed, excitedly waiting for Santa Claus to come down the drain pipe. Chimney pot. To come down the chimney pot. Suddenly, in the east, a big bright new star appeared in the sky. This bright new star had not gone unnoticed by the 3 blind men. Mice. The 3 wise mice. Blind mice. Wise mice. Listen. 3 blind kings from Orient. That's what I'm saying. The 3 blind mice. They decided to ride on, ship of the desert things. They're not llamas, but it's near enough. So they rode off on their Lambrettas to find out what was at the end of the rainbow. They carried gifts in their saddlebags of Frankenstein's gold and a big bag of sweets. Pick and mix, if you must know.
That continues for another 2 or 3 minutes, but man alive, and I was driving when I heard it, and that I shouldn't have been. That kind of thing, when you first start that, do you indulge it? Do you bring it down in like 19 minutes? How does that work?
You know, it's... what I end up with, I don't really edit it too much. It's pretty much, it's kind of like a stream of consciousness. And the thing is, when you pick something like the Nativity, everyone is aware of the story of it.
Yeah, of course.
You know, like I've done shows on Egypt. Everybody knows a little bit about Egypt and Tutankhamun and things like that. So I think choosing something that quite a lot of people know a little bit about is a good thing.
But even so, the idea that suddenly the end of the rainbow is in there, and the llamas, and it's the anger when you say "if you must know." That's the anger in Aftershock. I like. Is that far away from walking over?
Well, I remember that sort of thing, particularly in elderly relatives that couldn't quite express themselves. They always used to lose their temper themselves, but they'd kind of be blaming you for listening to them wrongly. You know, and that's where that anger comes from. And that's more animated on stage than on the radio.
Well, when you're doing
less so in the TV series,
but when you do the Lovely Day live, I thought you were going to have a heart attack. It's quite an exhausting character to play, isn't it?
I'm very close to the edge there. In terms of oxygen in my lungs, I'm very, very close to the edge. But I think I kind of think you have to be, otherwise you're just pretending.
Do people recognise you? Because you look nothing like him, thank God, but, because the whole shoulders coming up and that, you look physically like such a different person.
I only tend to get recognised around a show. If it's the next day and I'm walking through the place we've been the night before, sometimes it happens, but ordinarily it doesn't, which is a good thing, in my opinion.
Well, the TV show is now on Fridays. It's not on the moment because of the election.
That's right.
There's something else happening. Yeah. It's not on at the moment. But that, again, it started and you got your fingers crossed at the beginning, a second series. Now you've got a third. How's it going? How are you doing with it?
OK, all right, yeah, I think it's going all right. You know, it's... because I'm on tour now, that's what I tend to think about. You know, the daily... it's not grind, actually, it's a pleasure, but... the daily thing, the timetable about getting up, leaving the hotel, driving to the next show.
Tell me about that.
Exactly. All that sort of stuff. I like that.
Well, does Arthur travel? I don't mean physically. I mean, is there a market abroad for him?
I don't know. I mean, I have some friends in a San Franciscan surrealist sort of comedy troupe called Caspar Hauser. They're always saying, come out here, you go down.
Really?
Well, yeah.
Really?
I think that San Francisco or Los Angeles, maybe. There might be a tiny market for him. It would be interesting to do that.
Oh, yeah.
Particularly if it was a kind of a Shakespearean-based thing, which I've done in the distant past as Arthur. Quite a bit of
the Egyptian
Arthur getting Shakespeare wrong and things like that. You know,
the
something
Egyptian show, I'm sure, would travel. Everyone want to get that. And how about you as an actor? How's your ambitions now? I mean, are you, forgive me, trapped in Arthur now, or do you still have...
Oh, no, I'm not trapped. I gladly stopped acting when I started doing Arthur. And then that was way back in 1997.
Yeah.
The first...
Why did you gladly stop?
Because I couldn't really figure out why I put myself through 3 years training as an actor. I didn't enjoy. I'm temperamentally unsuited to auditioning for people.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I really didn't prepare when I auditioned for people. I just turned up thinking, well, here I am, you know, if you want to use me. If you don't, stop messing about.
Ray Winster was in here, and he actually hit someone who went up to him and said, you have to get your hair cut. Do that again, you're doing the accent all wrong. He said,
well,
I'll tell you what.
Understand why he might. I've never been tempted to do that, but it's a very frustrating thing, really.
Yeah.
If you don't really enjoy playing that game, or you're not sort of immersed in the kind of social side of being an actor.
Yeah.
And I'm not. I like being private and being away from it all.
Are you touchy about reviews and stuff?
No, I'm not touchy. I mean, everybody's doing their job, aren't they, really? So,
yeah.
But, you know, you take the good ones and you don't take any notice of the bad ones.
You're doing okay.
I'm sure you've been...
You're doing okay. Yeah, oh, man, alive, yeah. So you were in... I didn't realise that you were in something I've seen many, many times. I didn't recognise you. You were Sergeant Coombs in Poirot's Christmas. Yeah. In Poirot's Christmas. Now, what did you bring to Sergeant Coombs, do you remember?
Well, it was a Wiltshire accent, and I've ended up living near Wiltshire, so that's an interesting little twist, isn't it? But I remember the first scene I had, and I hadn't met David Suchet before, and he had the first line in the scene, and he spoke the first line to me, and I didn't think we'd started. I thought he was really talking to me. I went, pardon? It was
did he stay
incredible,
in
really.
Did he try and feel that?
Understated and real that he completely... Completely, I have no idea where we were going.
Who are your contemporaries who went on to do well, if any? Did you?
I can't really help you there.
No. You know anyone? You never, say what? And he.
No, I'm still in touch with people I was at drama college with, but a lot of them don't act anymore. You know, I mean, Rob Dixon is a very good friend of mine still. He was having a great TV career.
But there's no, you weren't there with, I don't know, I need to say Michael Caine, then that would make you 91, wouldn't it?
No, I said we had no Michael Caine in our year. I think we had a lot of people scratching their heads wondering why on earth they'd ended up there, It was one of those years, really, I think. I'm not doing anybody a disservice, it was in my year. There are lots of people like Rupert Van Sittart who's
no, but it's no one like...
there's no Michael Caine, though.
Did you wish it had come earlier to you?
No.
No?
No, I think if it had come earlier or if it had happened more quickly than it did, then I wouldn't quite enjoy it to the degree I feel a great deal of affection for it because it's evolved over a long time, I mean, it's 20 years since I did that first Edinburgh now, this year. And he's involved in increments, and I'm quite comfortable with that. I'd never thought it should happen quickly. People often say, don't you wish it happened sooner? I don't really know.
No, and what were you doing immediately before it? What was your last job before, you got Arthur?
I was building a kitchen for someone in Crouch End. I used to be a carpenter, and I could have had a very successful carpenter business if I decided to go that way instead of Arthur.
Yeah.
So that's what I was doing when I decided to pack acting in. And it was the day after that gig. The gig happened to be in Crouch End, and I happened to be building a kitchen for someone in Crouch End. And I phoned my agent up the day after that show and said, look, I'm going to try something else now. So,
and the BBC when they came along to you, did you hear hosannas when they said, you know what, yeah.
Oh, they didn't come along, Danny.
Didn't they? What happened?
No, we had an idea. My wife had the idea, actually. We were wondering what to kind of do next after a live show, and she said, well, why don't you try writing some radio scripts? And I mentioned it to Rich Dawes at Comedia Entertainment, who look after me, and he said, that's a good idea. So I wrote 3 different formats for radio shows, one of them being the sitcom, and we recorded them. We down at Comedia in Brighton, we recorded them on Sundays there, in front of a live audience, and then we edited them, sent the recordings off to the BBC in the commissioning rounds, and Caroline Raphael, who was the chief commissioner then, she out of the 2 we sent in, she chose the sitcom. She said, we like this one best, and which was our pick as well.
And a lot of fans of Arthur were always saying he said BBC and not BBBC.
Yes.
Do people want you to be Arthur when they meet you?
I detect sometimes at the end of a show people are slightly disappointed that I'm signing stuff for them in the foyer,
And what do you sign as?
I signed as Count Arthur Strong because I think that's perhaps what they want. I'm not sure many people know who Steve Delaney is, so it wouldn't.
Well, I've noticed on Twitter you used to answer as Count Arthur, but recently you've started saying, it's not real. I've noticed a lot of your Twitter thing now is more your voice.
Well, maybe slightly, but I don't have any other outlet for people that I want to get back at. You see.
Get back at.
So I'm on no social media myself as Steve Delaney. So if somebody says something slightly objectionable, sometimes I think, well,
no,
well, I don't mind that. I'll respond and see how far it goes, and if it goes too far, then I'll just block people.
Plus, you can always say it wasn't me. That's how Arthur does things like that. Here's a little more. This is something you said about Elvis Presley, and here's a little when it's Eddie Presley gets into this one. Here we go. Try this.
This will have them pouring in this poster, Will. Oh, you can't go wrong with felt tips. I've always been good at drawing, me. I did a drawing of a pig once, and the teacher put it on the wall. Oh, she thought it was wonderful. It was jumping out of an aeroplane with a parachute on, and all the cows in the field had machine guns, and they were all shooting bits off it. Oh, the innocence of youth.
What is that?
It's a drawing of Eddie.
Eddie
Presley. He had a blue suede foot. He was only the king of rock cakes. Bacon rolls. Oh, sausage rock. Rock and roll. Don't tell me you've never heard of Eddie Presley and his rock-hard sausage.
Now, that music hall end of the pier joke there, you can take anywhere you want, but man, that's just so stupid, it is so funny. Yeah. You're even smiling
stupid.
At that.
I know, I like stupid. We've written a lot of radio shows, and I didn't remember that, I have to say. So I was hearing it for the first time.
Yeah. Well, I drive and play the shows all the time, and they just don't disappoint. But I sometimes think it's all right, without in a disrespectful way. It is a monologue, isn't it? A lot of the time, it's a monologue.
Yeah, pretty much. And that's one thing we had to change for the TV show, because you can't have 7 episodes of someone coming on.
That's
and
the thing. The
monologues.
TV show is a very different Arthur Strong.
Yeah, well, I suppose, but at the core, it's still the same Arthur for me.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's just another facet of Arthur, it's and why should you be
sorry, Pepsi?
reined in?
No. It's, the listeners would like you to know that it's Anita Harris's 75th birthday.
Right, yes, it is. She's on a cruise somewhere, I believe. Yes. Yeah.
Bravo.
Are you stalking Anita?
No, not at all. Not at all. A friend of hers, a mutual Twitter follower, sent me a picture of her and him on her cruise.
Who did you meet as a kid? The first famous person I met was Charlie Caroli, the clown. I met Charlie Caroli in Yarmouth. That was Yarmouth too. Did you ever get an autograph or anything as a kid?
God, no, I didn't.
Were you sporty, didn't you? Did you follow sport or anything?
Well, yes. Coming from Leeds, I supported the Leeds United. Don Revie's Leeds United.
Oh, did you?
I got Paul Reaney's autograph 4 times, one after the other. Sold it for £1.
Did you?
School, yes.
You really did get on one after?
I did, yeah. I used to do a bit of work in a garage at the bottom of our street when I was about 11 or 12. I used to, if they needed a radiator taken out, they'd let me do that and stuff like that. And the guy that managed it was friends with half the Leeds United team, so Bobby Collins was down there as well, which is going back to the pretty early 60s, really.
Yeah, Paul Madeley and all that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And do you still follow them at all? Have you been...
Oh, yeah. I follow them in passing. I keep an eye on them, really. Yeah. Afraid we dropped out the playoffs.
But the other thing is, I say, I'm a traditionalist. I like... My mindset is pretty much 1974, and I like the strong Wolves, Newcastle, Leeds, and that Chelsea, sort of thing. Yeah, exactly. But I remember, I remember when Barrow Inverness were in the league, and I still think Workington are going to play us any one of these weeks. Steve, thank you so much, and I want to congratulate you on the work, because anyone who's not experienced, you can get all the DVD, CD box sets. I'm doing Arthur now. You can and just start anywhere you like, because they're the gift that keep on giving. I play them a lot, and it's a great honour to meet the man behind it. You're on tour, of course, all over the place at the minute.
Yep.
And literally, how many dates you doing on this one?
It's 77 in total, but
wow.
61st show last night.
Just let me just ask very quickly before we finish. Do you mean people who don't get it, who think he might be... Have you ever met anyone who thinks he's kind of real?
Yeah, I think there are people like that. I mean, yeah. One thing about touring so often is you eventually end up with audiences that know who you are, and they've come specifically to see you. But often there are...
And is there anything close to a catchphrase? Do they shout anything out?
Mind your head on that light fitting, I think.
Okay.
Something.
Well,
somebody shouts that every now and again.
On that obscure note, unless you know the show, Steve Delaney, thank you very much indeed.
Oh, you're welcome.
We'll be right back.
Saturday mornings with Danny Baker on 5 Live.
Call 08085 909 693. Text 85058. Email lord.reith@bbc.co.uk.
Very good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for all the copies of Ziggy Stardust you're putting on the Facebook community cassette or whatever, because it's I know we're the welter of anniversaries, especially rock and roll anniversaries, come around all the time, but this Tuesday, 47 years Ziggy Stardust, 45 years Ziggy Stardust, and 45 years Roxy Music first album came out on the same day. We're an absolute plethora of riches. What you got over there, Peps?
I'm going to do some what they would call in certain parts of the radio business some service elements for you. Next week, the show is an hour later, everybody. You get a lie-in.
All right.
It's 10 until 12. The Derby, of course, is live commentary later on 5 Live at 4:30. And the Champions League final, Juventus versus Real Madrid, at 7:45 tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. So we got our friends John and Jackie and Peter all lined up. There's a whole bunch of subjects here in front with various... We're going to be off the air in a minute. We'll be out your way. We're just fooling around the radio studio. What you got over there, Peps?
A couple of expressions you've only heard once. Firstly, from Maggie in Cardiff. I'm told my grandmother's response to anything she wasn't impressed with was, "Do you want me to put it on the wall and dance to it?"
Oh, again, yes. What was the one we had before? You're about as useful as a cat.
Yeah.
Now, these are not just getting the words wrong. These are expressions that people use you've never heard anywhere else.
From Tom, my mate's dad, a brilliant old Irish chap, has said several of these over the years. My favourite being, "There's more than one way to kill a pig, and it's not by feeding it strawberries."
Man, Kenneth Williams used to say he saw a woman getting off a bus, and they started arguing with the bus conductor, and he said, "Do you want to make anything of it?" And she went, "I will if you've got some strawberries." And he used to say... Is that something anyone said? So we'll work our way through those by 11 o'clock. Here's our friend John. Hey, John.
Yeah, morning, Danny.
Good morning, John. This is Stories of the Wedding Dress. What can you tell us about wedding dresses, John?
Yeah, I was on a rugby tour in the early 80s. It was around 1983. And we went to Guernsey on tour. And we played the game against Guernsey and then back to the rugby club. And then back to the hotel for all the usual sort of rugby tour shenanigans, mostly involving too much drink. And eventually I crashed out, went to bed. It was a kind of tired old hotel. And I got up in the middle of the night and staggered to the toilet in the corridor. And I opened the toilet door, and there, slumped across the toilet, was a person in a full wedding dress with a veil. And eventually I noticed, at first I thought I'd had too much to drink, really. I thought, blimey, what's going on? And when I looked, it was our prop, Greg, who had he'd apparently found a wedding dress in a cupboard, hadn't gone to bed, and then eventually got on the toilet and fell asleep.
No. So, at a rugby club hijinks go, all this is a given. But he found somebody's wedding dress and thought, I'll put that on.
Yeah, he did. He found it in a cupboard in the corridor and put it on, and because I didn't know he'd done that, and when I eventually I got up to go to the toilet, opened the toilet door, and there he was, fast asleep, slumped across it with a full veil on, the whole wedding dress.
Now, but when was this, by the way? When would this have been?
Yeah, this was about 1983.
So no mobile phones, so you couldn't say, look, if ever he tried to deny it, yep, you got dressed up in the middle of... Although, I think if you're in a strange guest house and you open the toilet door and there was a bride, there was Miss Havisham, slumped forward, you're very good to even... I'd have skedaddle there into the night. That's a terrifying use of it. Thank you very much for sharing it, John. I'm sure your friend appreciates that. What do you got over there, Peps?
We've got from Stephen in Merthyr Tydfil. Hi, Danny. Piano smashing and throwing the fragments through a round hole around the size of two heads in a piece of plyboard was a permanent fixture of the annual Aberfan and Merthyr Vale Carnival during the 60s and 70s. They were of the upright variety and decrepit. It's a myth that pianos do improve with age.
I should have actually asked Steve Delaney about that, because it was a golden age of doing that on television. And he got a round hole. It was always a letterbox. They had a freestanding door, like the Monkeys, and they would smash up pianos with sledgehammers and put the pieces through a letterbox, and the first team to win. It was a regular game on It's a Knockout, and put it. But why a letterbox? And then you had to finish that. But I'm glad it's been confirmed. As are the talcum powder mines.
Oh yes.
Here's our friend Jackie. Hey, Jackie.
Morning,
Yeah.
you're making me laugh.
Well,
It's serious, my subject.
But it's this thing. Whenever I mention, people think anything on the show. I never find it amusing to make stuff up. The most, honestly, the great thing is you can say talcum powder is mined like coal, and people think, oh, that's an odd thing. Until you find out, oh, it's true. What can you tell us about that, Jackie?
Well, about 40 years ago, I used to go and stay with an uncle who lived in Red Hill, Reigate. I'm not sure of the area. I think it was Red Hill. He was head gardener in Nutfield Priory.
Oh, sounds lovely. Yeah.
Because I'm from the area. Not from there, I'm from the Midlands, obviously.
Yeah.
And he used to say, oh, we've got a talcum powder mine just across the field.
Oh.
So I said, no, you can't have such a thing, can you? Not a talcum powder mine. And he took me up to see it one day.
Wow.
And it is. It's a talc. You haven't got to go all the way to Romania.
I had no idea we had them in this country.
Well, it's near Nutfield. Nutfield Priory he worked. His son was profoundly deaf, and it was a fantastic school at the time for profoundly deaf children.
But so he took you to the entrance to this cavern, and down you went.
Well, I didn't actually go in. We could see. Unfortunately, I don't know. It was mainly open mine, but it's actually full as earth. And the main product it's used for now is cat litter. But it was also used for all sorts of things.
Is this because people don't use talcum powder anymore? Do people? Let me ask Peps here. Do people use talcum?
Very rarely. There's talk of it being a bit dangerous sometimes around babies, so they don't encourage it with babies.
Is that right?
They worry about the babies inhaling it.
Jackie, that was at Christmas. If you bought your mum something,
yes,
there'd be a little set with a
Yardley's,
your talcum powder.
That's right.
But now you say
Lavender.
that, and the top was like a combination of salt and pepper pot. You turn the little wheel and open up all those little dots.
Danny, it's still like that.
Is it?
Yes, I actually put mashes in my shoes when I come into the summer and I don't wear socks or tights or whatever. And throw it into trainers. I use I won't say Johnson's, but I use the baby.
Well, Johnson's is pretty much it. But see that it's evolving into something else now, whereas it used to be virtual deodorant and stuff.
It's for chafing a lot of people. Like sportsmen use it for...
There was an old joke that I never understood, and we'll get away from talcum powder in a minute, but there's an old joke I never understood Max Miller used to tell, and I didn't get it for years. When a fellow goes into the chemist, he says, I'd like some talcum powder, please. And he says, absolutely, sir, walk this way. And he says, if I could walk that way, I wouldn't need the talcum powder. Now, that I never understood that joke. But anyway, tell us again where this talcum powder mine is, Jackie.
It's near Nutfield, near Red Hill.
Wow. Well,
not far at all.
I mean, it's a very big business now because it's used for. I don't know if it's still there. It's used for making the shiny bits on paper. It's used in lipsticks.
Jackie, your one call as the people at Alton Towers are ringing us up, begging us to stop talking about this because suddenly people don't want to go there anymore. They all want to see the great talcum powder mine. Thank you, Jackie. Bless you. Don't bless you for that. See, I say these things, but I didn't know there was one so close to home. A talcum powder mine. What you got over there, Peps?
Well, now during the SSG, you treated us to a bit of focus.
Yes, I did.
And hot off the press from Jules, Danny, I was selling the world's smallest kite on the South Bank. And a large fellow with a moustache came and bought one. We started a chat and I said, what are you doing here? He said he was from the Netherlands and was in a band doing a tour. Really? I said,
there you go.
What are you called? Oh, you wouldn't have heard of us, he said. We're called Focus.
No.
Seizing the opportunity, I asked, is your name Theus Van Leer? Is that how I would...
Yep.
To my amazement, he said yes.
Was it really?
He has certainly changed from his appearance on the Live at the Rainbow album cover that I have.
There you go. And we have a good response to playing Hocus Pocus by Focus this morning. And any time I get a chance to play that, because it gives me a chance to say it. Here's our friend Peter with I Couldn't Turn It Off. Good morning, Peter.
Morning.
Peter, you have been knocked out.
Yes, I have.
Just forgive me, Sandy. You're the first person I've asked quite a lot during the sausage sandwich game and everything else. Peps has never been knocked out. No. I've never been knocked out. Nobody on the sausage sandwich game had been. What happened?
I was playing five-a-side, went for a header, and dived a little bit too long and into the wall.
And what was the you headed the wall?
Oh.
And what was the sensation like?
Blackness and dizziness, really.
Well, I know you've not rung in for that, and it's very good of you to field in there. It's just I'm doing a straw poll here. What couldn't you turn off?
Well, rewind 15 years ago or so, we were building a pool for a customer, and it was in an existing building. So it used to be a hotel. He bought the hotel, and we were putting the pool inside what used to be the dining room. Everything was isolated. All the services were turned off. We'd completely gutted just about all the building. There was a little bit of ceiling left to come down. The labourer was taking it down. He got to 2 wires. He said to the foreman, "What do you want to do with these?" He says, "Oh, just cut them, Graham. We've cut every other wire in the building."
Okay.
So he cut them, which set the house alarm off.
Oh, wow. All right. Okay. Yeah.
The foreman then quickly ran up the ladders, took the alarm off, and he was literally running around the garden with it in his hand, with it screaming away.
And how long? Because I think I live near you. How long was that alarm going for?
Couldn't possibly tell you. It's still buried in his garden.
Actually dug a hole and buried it. Really?
We had a machine on site, a digger on site. We dug a big hole, put it in. Deep enough so we couldn't hear it anymore.
I love the idea that people walking along saying it's coming from the bowels of the earth, and getting down as I believe Native American trackers would do, putting one ear to the ground, and they can hear it under there. I hope future generations dig that up and see it as proof of some kind of alien invasion. Peter, thank you very much. Couldn't turn the alarm off. What have you got over there? We'll continue.
Well, this is from, I think this is a couple of weeks' show this week, but Martin in South Wales. You had a story the other week about somebody meeting Steve Hackett in a bookshop or a cafe. I'd like to tell you about the time I went to a birthday party in 2003. My girlfriend at the time worked in an office and one of her friends was having a 21st. We were slightly older than the other people that were going to the party. It was at the Raglan Rugby Club in a small town in South Wales near Abergavenny, and we turned up on a Saturday night with a card and a present, and it was very nice. I got introduced to the birthday girl, gave her the present. She's happy. She says we have a disco and food and drink later, and my brother will be playing in his band on stage. So my dad's going to enjoy the show. At the front of the stage, there was a group of what I can only describe as ageing musos. The disco finished, they got up on stage and started playing a set. Now, as the gig progressed, I started to recognise some of the songs. And I thought, wow, these are very good cover artists. They're note perfect. It dawned on me then that her father was Jeff Downes from the Buggles. And as I looked around the group, I noticed it was a strange mashup in the early 90s between it was from the strange mashup in the early 90s between the Buggles and Yes. And I could see the late John Wetton was on vocals, Steve Howe playing guitar, and the legendary Carl Palmer was on drums. Sam Coulson on everything else. This was basically Asia, Yes, and the Buggles playing a small rugby club in Raglan for free. They finished off with Video Killed the Radio Star, which her dad wrote. She then got up on stage and sang the song. It's probably my favourite of all times. One of my favourite nights out ever, and I still couldn't tell you what the girl's name was.
Trevor Horn, when he was in here the other week, he played that acoustic version of a Video Killed the Radio Star because he's a huge Dylan fan and all of that was a love for me. Here's our friend Anne. Hey, Anne!
Hello.
Thank you for being there, Anne. This is expressions you've heard just the once. My dad, Anne, he used to use the word, well, he had various unique words, but he used to say something was ambidosia. He used that a lot. Oh, it's ambidosia, that. And I don't know what corruption of a word it was. What do you want for afters, Dad? Ambidosia pudding. And so these, again, these are unique expressions or words that people use, not in a mixed-up sense. What have you got for us, Anne?
Well, it's not something that's only been used once. It's kind of come into the history of our family. And I don't know where from. Somebody in our family had a husband called John.
Right.
So, and then my grandma used to take this expression. She always used to say, that'll be nice for John's dinner.
Right.
When she was cooking. I get this image that she might have been fat, you know, just helping herself to the pot.
And so this would be used in what context?
When you're cooking, you take a little taster and see whether it's nice or not.
And just say that.
And just say, that will be nice for John's dinner. And so we always say that. But as I say, I've got this image that this relative of ours, I haven't got any idea who they were, it's kind of taking more than John actually gets in the end.
But it's a sort of Bunteresque figure. Now, you reminded me of that, and again, without just giving like for like all the time. And I don't know if this is just my mum, but whether like we're having at the moment where it's sunny and then all of a sudden you think, oh, here we go. She used to say, it's all gone dark over Will's mother's. My mum used to say that, rather like you're John. Mum said, "Oh, hello, look, it's gone dark over Will's mother's." And now I've just literally, as you're saying that, I thought, look, John, Will's mother's. Anyone who can help us...
Who's Will's mum?
Exactly. He's next door to your John. Happy to say one. Thank you very much indeed, Anne. What you got over there, Peps? What's that?
Phil in Bow. My old maths teacher, Jamo in Swansea, if you said something irrelevant, would say, "I've got a picture of George V on the wall, and that's no use to me either."
No. Well, I'd say the whole point about this is they should be baffling. That anything you've got of those, please, and the stories of the old wedding dress, etc., etc. Did you know, and given this weather we're having at the moment as I came out this morning, hailstones are like trees. Now, let me put clothes on that mannequin. If you cut a hailstone, it'll have rings inside.
No.
It'll have rings inside of it. They don't last long enough to do that, but certainly the larger ones and the miniature ones, but you can't see them. If you cut a hailstone, it has rings in it. Now, I don't know what you can't tell the age of a hailstone, I don't think so. But a hailstone will have rings inside it just like a tree trunk.
We were talking of trees earlier, and no one has seemed to have gone out into a field and looked between their legs and told us
that's how you find the height of a tree.
I feel very let down by that.
Anyone
Nobody
will do that.
this morning.
When I said if you throw an egg over a house, it won't break. People always go out and try that, and they always ring up and say, "You're absolutely right with that." Give us something, Peps, and then we'll move on.
I was just going to give you... last week's show this week, someone suggested dictators you have met who you were too polite to take to task, which you felt we couldn't possibly...
Why did that happen?
Someone had a story about refusing a cup of tea from a dictator, but we never actually heard.
No, and I said the one subject we'll never get anything on is that, but we seem to have done, did we?
Well, this is Joel, who says he's in Miami, living the dream.
Oh, well done, mate.
He says, a member of the audience suggests the topic, dictators you have met but were too polite to take to task. I happened to be listening to the podcast on the day that Manuel Noriega died.
Oh, okay.
While I can't claim to have met old Pineapple Face himself,
They called him.
while I was in Panama on business about 12 years ago, I did meet his daughter and was too polite to mention her father's brutal regime to her, partly out of politeness and partly out of not being educated enough on the subject to argue the point, and partly out of the desire to leave the country in one piece. I hope this puts the subject of dictators to bed.
I don't know if it will, and we'll extend it away from dictators. It depends. People on the wrong side of history you can get, because I certainly remember... I think the subject was, we might do this again next week, is who did either your mother or your grandmother dance with?
Oh.
And a fella rang in and said, my grandmother danced with Emperor Hirohito. She ran a dance school over in West London. She ran a dance school in the 1930s, and Hirohito was in the country. And he was touring the area, and he went above the clothes shop and she was conducting a class at the time. And Emperor Hirohito turned up with his top hat on and his entourage, and she said, she bowed low to him, and he took her in his arms and started to waltz her around the floor. Now, that's a beautiful story. If anyone else has ever danced with Emperor Hirohito, we're here for that. That's all we're here for. I know. So Ho Chi Minh used to work on the ferries.
No.
Yeah, the ferries. No, he used to work on the cross-channel ferry. I think I'm right here. Ho Chi Minh used to be a steward on the cross-channel ferries, and he served another listener soup. Here's Harry, by the way. Hey, Harry.
Good morning, Dan. Morning, Luke.
Harry, you've been listening to the show a long time, Harry. Do you remember when Emperor Hirohito danced with someone's grandmother, or indeed that Ho Chi Minh was a steward on the cross-channel ferries?
I vaguely remember the Ho Chi Minh thing, but I don't remember about Hirohito.
It's very nice of you to help me out there. So what have you got for us, Harry?
Yeah. Well, when we got married in 1985, we had a traditional sort of wedding. Hired the hall, supplied all the booze ourselves, and set up our own bar on it. We had a lovely day. Some big wig vicar was down in the area. We stood in from the for the wedding and did the wedding for us. And we had a lovely party at Village Hall. And my wife got changed from a wedding dress into this beautiful diaphanous gown, beautiful, not a trouser suit. And the roll doors turned up to take us down to the hotel before we flew off in the morning. And everybody came out of the hall to wave us off in this Rolls Royce. And one of my mates thought he'd throw some spray of cold with champagne. Unfortunately, he didn't have any. So he slung what was left of a pint of lager.
Then that's something. That's something entirely different on someone's wedding day. And it caught the wedding dress, did it?
called the wedding dress, and the window was open. It went all over my wife. And this beautiful new bride of mine, she's hanging out the window screaming at my mate.
Quite right.
Saying
Yeah.
things I've never heard before. I've never heard language like it in all my life. And the last memory I've got of our wedding party, looking at the back window of a Rolls Royce, seeing my mate's wife attacking him with the handbag. New rigger.
Now we're in the world of sitcom, but he threw a pint of lager towards a woman in with a bridal dress. That's extraordinary.
He just thought the car was wound up and all that.
Yeah, but even so, you don't. There is no tradition, not even in areas I come from, of throwing pints of lager towards the happy couple. It doesn't matter whether the window is open or not. Thank you very much indeed, Harry. Forgive me asking this, Peps. Have you ever worn a bridal dress? Either
At my own wedding, yes.
You did. You did. That's what I mean. You didn't.
Which hilariously, unfortunately, my dad wasn't very well before the wedding. My mum, we got married in Italy, and my parents were going to take 2 weeks to drive to the wedding, take everything with them in the car, have a bit of a holiday on the way. And my dad was poorly, so in the end, he had to fly out literally the day before. So my mum had to cram everything into suitcases, and it was only I was there the day before when my mum arrived with my wedding dress in hand luggage because she didn't trust it to go in the hold. My wedding dress crammed into a tiny hold-all type bag, and it sprung out like a beautiful dress. It steamed, it was amazing. My mum was sweating.
I remember a woman saying her husband threw her wedding dress away. He didn't, but I blamed her, and I'm sorry if you're still listening. This wasn't that long ago, and she said it was up in her loft in a bin bag. She kept
yes,
do you remember?
He took it to the charity shop.
He took it to the charity shop. He just thought, well, and he took it down the charity.
My parents' neighbours, who are an older couple and got married later in life.
Yeah.
My mum spied through the window, because our kitchen window, you can sort of see into their kitchen across the way. On their wedding anniversary, she still dons her wedding dress and cooks up his dinner for when he comes home.
That's
on
nice, but it's a little bit Miss Havisham. A little bit. So, I'm sure people listening on the podcast will be able to help us out more with this. But here's our friend Sandy to finish with. Hey, Sandy, as quick as you can. I'm so sorry, my friend. This is something you couldn't switch off. What do you got for us, Sandy?
Yes, just shortly after my father died, I went round to check my mother, and I said, "Where's the smoke detector?" And she said, it wouldn't stop beeping. She said, I had to take it down. I said, why? And she said, because I couldn't get the batteries out. So I said, where is it? She said, it's in the freezer. Said, why? She said, because that's the only way it would stop.
And was it in there? And was it in there? And was it still going?
No, it stopped. So I took it out and I started lecturing her about, she must have a smoke detector. And it started to defrost and it went off again.
Did it?
So we had to put it back in the freezer.
Well, those things, glow sticks and stuff, you're supposed to put those in the freezer. And we came home from holiday there to still work. We had about 19. Next week, thank you, Sandy, next week we kept it in the freezer.
And next week, 10 till 12.
10 to 12 we're on next week. In the meantime, thanks very much to Steve Delaney and Bianca Walkden, but as always, chiefly yourselves. Yeah, we're on later next week. I believe you mentioned that once or twice. I'll see you then.
The Danny Baker Show is a Campbell Davison media production for BBC Radio 5 Live.
You're listening to a BBC 5 Live podcast. The Danny Baker Show.
If you like this, you might also like this.
Kermode and Mayo's film review.
If you don't know your app from your elbow, bum tish, here all week, tip your waitress.
To find out more about our range of podcasts, click, tap or swipe bbc.co.uk/5live.